On today's episode, we discuss the art and lore of the newest, worst champion in League of Legends, Zoe. Ah yes, Zoe, the Zoester. Yes. I hate her guts. Thousands of years old, but she refuses to assume the responsibility of an adult. You don't have to grow up if you don't want to. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Try that line on your significant other. Hey, honey, can you pick up the kids today? Nope. I'm shirking all responsibility because I don't have to grow up if I don't want to. Boom. Divorce papers. Yeah. Stupid spunky kid.
Welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast, episode 492 here. We're going to be talking about Zoe this evening as Dom, Punch, and Skyen are with us. Skyen, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you as always.
Heyo.
Hey. What's up?
That's all we get today, huh?
Pretty much.
All right. That's fair and fine. So, as I said, we're going to talk about Zoe this evening, as we do every time that Skyen comes on, art, lore, and all the good stuff. And then probably Monday we'll actually really discuss her in-depth play and abilities and whatnot as we get to play around with her quite a bit more or see her in the game. If you guys aren't already, patreon.com/TForce Network, if you guys want to get out there and support us. I have 4 Champions Like podcasts that I am recording over the next 5 days, including Fiddlesticks, Xayah, Lucian, and Gangplank. And so to follow that up, I'm going to try to get a Rakan and Leona as well, because I believe that Xayah and Rakan probably should be released in the same month. And to give you guys a little more background, the Xayah is D1 Masters, the Gangplank is D1 Masters, the Lucian is D1 Masters, and the Fiddlesticks is currently Diamond 5. So everybody
what a
out there
scrub.
doing really well.
Diamond 5. Jeez.
Well, the community for the Fiddlesticks players was a little smaller than the rest of them, but that's all right. We'll take what we can get and get you guys some more information about all these champions. And, I know we're only releasing two of those Champions Like podcasts a month, but there's just so many that I like to really get out because they're meta. Right now, like Katarina is really popular. It's just kind of gated, so we'll see how I decide to release them.
Is she, or does Santana just like her a lot?
Nah, she's popular. People like her. And there's other ones out there people really like. Like, I'm sure people will be like, we'll get a Zoe on there. Like, she's been up
Nobody likes Zoe.
a week and a half. There's not really, like, crazy Zoe mains yet. So, yeah, let's just dive right in. Skyen Caster Comics fame, artist extraordinaire. What do we got about Zoe this week?
Well, Zoe is a bit of a unusual fit for League of Legends in a lot of ways. Now, first of all, she's supposed to be from Targon. The lore says that she's a girl, ordinary girl from Targon, who a trickster god for some reason decided to make into another trickster god, and now she is thousands of years old despite still looking like a child and essentially just likes playing pranks on people and hitting awkwardly on Ezreal in a way that is extremely uncomfortable. But from a design perspective, she hews mostly close to sort of the cosmic League of Legends color schemes, which is most clearly she's identifiable with Aurelion Sol. Lots of pinks and purples, blues, and the gold, of course, hanging out in her color scheme. And her clothing is a little unusual in that it doesn't really look like fantasy clothing as such. It looks almost like stuff you could buy in H&M or in any department clothing store. She looks almost modern, which I think is perhaps supposed to make her look timeless. But for me, what I've seen a lot of people say is that she seems like kind of an awkward fit for League. And I have to agree with that because she doesn't really look Targonian, especially. And she doesn't really look like she's a cosmic entity. She looks like a child because that's what she's supposed to look like. She doesn't really look like anything. And it's weird.
I kind of read this two different ways. Her lore points out that she travels between different realms, so it would be reasonable to think that, hey, she can obtain clothing from these other realms, and that's why she doesn't fit with Runeterra as we know it now.
So you're saying she went to H&M in this realm?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, she went
Ultimate
to
Dimension H&M.
She decked herself out on the cheap, and then she went back and was like, there's this Ezreal guy, I hope he is into me.
It's so uncomfortable.
No, the other thing could be that because she has spent so much time traveling and she is, thousands of years old and everything, we might be looking at, ancient Targonian garb as opposed to modern, quote, Targonian garb, that we're used to seeing. I agree that, like, at first glance it doesn't fit, but it didn't really strike that negative of a chord with me.
No, I mean the thing. My primary problem with her design is that they have to draw the line between making her look recognizably human and normal and down to earth, and making her look like some weirdo cosmic phenomenon kind of thing. And the thing they seem to have focused most on is her hair, like that whole cosmic glitter and sparkle thing that she's got going on there, and the weird colors. And I think it's kind of like Kane, where like I would have liked to see them be a little bit more extreme with the design rather than make him look pretty. And the same thing goes here, where I would have liked to have seen her look a little bit less just like a normal human girl, and a little bit more like she is a cosmic entity. And that's a fine line of, like, I guess personal preferences, but for me, I do think Zoe is a bit of a weird fit. And a lot of people have been commenting on especially her face, especially on the model, where she has almost a Yordle face, like very large eyes, this very broad, expressive face. Which I think is from a perspective of they wanted her to do the thing where she sticks her tongue out when she uses her ultimate, the teleport. And I think pretty much they rigged up her face to be very expressive because of that.
Yeah, they went with the Disney face.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much a Rapunzel tangled kind of facial design. And again, it's something that doesn't really appear in any other champions in League. Like if you compare her to Annie, she looks absolutely nothing like her when it comes to facial construction, who's the only other little girl champ we've got. So she's a little bit of an awkward fit for the League aesthetic, as it is today anyway.
I do wonder if we'll end up seeing more of that as they introduce more and more facial expressions, because you know that is a relatively new technology that they've been using.
Wasn't it the Poppy update or the Tristana update that were the first to have where the actual could animate the face?
I saw Poppy from somewhere.
Yeah.
But she's still mostly stoic compared to Zoe.
Yeah.
I mean, that's character, though.
Right, but so, she's, I'm thinking, you're talking, that doesn't look like anybody in League and whatnot, but I really do kind of draw the comparison of Tarek here, with the long flowing human hair and human features, and I know her face is more cartoony, than the rest of her body, but like, and obviously Tarek's, Valorian and not, he's from Valorant. Rather than, what'd you say, that Zoe?
She's from Targon.
Targon, thank you.
I think Tarek is supposed to be Demacian originally.
Originally, but he's Valorant now. But I just think it's interesting that they go ahead and pick that when you have this race of humans, or you've got like this this stoic figure of Tarek, who is very human-like, obviously. And he's got that long flowing hair. He's got he's got all the long features and whatnot that Zoe. I mean, they're very similar in the way they look. I kind of got both pictures up here, for reference.
Yeah. I mean, I am a little bit uncertain how I feel about Zoe exactly, because she feels very much like it's kind of like Kane was supposed to speak to the sort of anime protagonist archetype. Zoe feels a lot like she's supposed to speak to the Disney protagonist archetype. And again, it's sort of, League is sort of a little bit of in a weird place where it has this high fantasy aesthetic that it wants to take very seriously, like when you see with Demacia and Noxus and all that stuff. And then on the other hand, it also wants to be fun and lighthearted and kind of silly. And a lot of the champions that have been released over the last few years have not really been that. Even Kled, who was like the silliest character there was, had this very subdued design to him, where Zoe is she's very exuberant, she's very colorful, she's very bright. It's unusual. I don't feel negatively about her, really. It's just, she's an odd fit. I think we need more cosmic League of Legends champions to kind of round out that aesthetic.
Do you not get the anime feel out of her like you would with. I mean, I do with the Kane because she's got the big wide eyes and the small nose and the small mouth and the big head, and she's very expressive, and her movements are remind me of a lot of those characters where. She jumps out of the portal and she's making a very expressive face, legs out, hands out, whatever. And the same thing you would see in a lot of animes as well. And I know we ripped on Kane about that, but that's I understand what you're saying about Disney with her because she's very expressive and very childlike and playful and whatnot. But I get more of that anime feel from just by looking at her face and her eyes than I do anything else.
If you trace that particular style back, the one that informs like Tangled and Frozen and Moana and Disney movies like that, it's a visual style that's sort of developed out of influences that came from Japan but filtered through Europe, which is a style that's generally called Euro manga, where a lot of European artists took up a lot of stuff from Japanese art styles, and that kind of filtered over to America. So there is definitely this cross-pollination lineage thing going on where, because of the very soft-colored and like the color expression and the cartoonishness of her, I think Disney is the primary inspiration I point to, but there's definitely notes of Japanese animation and Japanese aesthetics going on in there. So I think you're right about the anime influence.
Yeah, and it's easy to say anime influence because I don't know enough about art or art history to understand, like you said, the going through Europe and all that kind of stuff to understand where people are drawing their influences from. Because it may not be that somebody's been watching a lot of anime and decided I want to make this very expressive character that comes to League. But to kind of backtrack here with Zoe. Sure, she might be a fantastic champion and how she's playing and a little bit overpowered and all that kind of stuff, but I just like the extreme movements and colorfulness of her and her expressions is just I don't think they fit in sparkles. They don't fit in the game of League at all in our current state because League has evolved from dark brooding warfare to now there's mystical people everywhere and they're just kind of fighting, right?
The last time I feel similarly, and the last time I felt this way is actually when we were introduced to Aurelian Sol, because he stuck out a lot when he was introduced. Like we haven't seen anything like him before. He was this big ethereal purple dragon dude with a lot of special effects. So Zoe just seems like the next incarnation of that, which makes a lot of sense since they both come from the same place. So I guess that's kind of what they're going for. But I also feel like at the same time, Zoe might have too much going on as far as her base model and all of the spell effects that she has.
It is weird that they chose Targon as their avenue for diving into the celestial side of things or cosmic side, whatever you want to call it, when, the first, the three standout Targonian champions, Diana, Leona, and Pantheon were such just like classic militant cosmic. Warrior types and everything. And it feels like everything they do with Targon is just trying to shoehorn all those champions that otherwise just feel like soldiers in one way or another into this celestial element and everything. And I think that's why we feel like so much is out of place. And Tarek didn't really fix that. Like, Tarek is fabulous, and that's always been his thing. But like trying to just say, like he doesn't really embody that celestial side any more than the other three do.
No, he's still a dude with a big ass mace that he hits people over the head with,
and that's cool.
Yeah, it's the thing of I think it's a little weird that Targon, as you say, becomes the focus of cosmic champions when they have like the Void already, and they have like Kassadin and like you could have people from the Void who were maybe not hungry Cthulhu-like monsters or something. Like, there's other options. It is a little bit, and it's the thing where Riot has been trying very, very hard for years and years now to try and generate a cohesive cosmology for the game, where everybody fits into a faction, and each faction has these and these properties and archetypes, and everybody can be sort of delineated into a set of aesthetics, and that shit is really hard to retcon everybody into. Like, just getting stuff like Shurima to work, where you had these Egyptian-inspired champions that you had to fit into League of Legends somehow, so you have to kind of invent Shurima as this desert kingdom to make it work. And that's the kind of process they've been going through. There's always going to be awkward, and I think it is a little bit of a thing where I think you're right, that is the misfit, that the characters used to be, Leona is a soldier in a religious order with some magic powers, I guess, but she's not space-powered sun god. She's just an aspect, and that's the thing where Zoe is the aspect of Twilight.
We get that all over the place. Templars are, that's a common term. paladin.
Because Zoe is the aspect of Twilight, and the lore makes it pretty clear that this makes her essentially a god. Like, essentially a trickster god who's immortal and who can jump across dimensions. And Leona is a lady who can, like, throw some sun lasers around. But she's still a normal lady, and Diana is still a normal lady, even though they're also aspects. And that's another part of the misfit, I guess, where does being an aspect make you a god, or does it just make you, like, a powerful person? The lore is weird.
It'd be helpful to have a power tier list come out from my just to demonstrate. So here's Aurelian Soul's power level relative to Urgot.
Well, Well, according to lore, Aurelian Soul would probably be the most powerful because he was literally eating galaxies and universes whole, right? So he's a celestial being. The Zoe, while she may scream powerful, her occupation, according to her background, is she's the divine messenger of Targon, or she's the celestial aspect from the Twilight. That doesn't really scream. Besides being divine, that doesn't really scream, any more powerful than Aurelian Soul when it comes down to it.
She's Peter Pan meets Silver Surfer. That's what she is.
Yeah, more than less. That's probably a good way to put it. I think that ends it there. All right, Peter Pan meets Silver Surfer.
That's a completely apt description, really.
Humorously, when you do related, I know because Tarek climbed Mount Targon. He's one of the related champions on the League of Legends wiki, along with Leona, Diana, Ezreal, Aurelian Soul, Pantheon, and Lux. Did I miss something in the lore about Lux?
No. I don't know. I keep seeing all this conversation, and I guess there's something in her dialogue where she doesn't like Lux.
Yeah, she has a massive crush. Yeah, she has a massive crush on Ezreal, like really just uncomfortably massive crush on Ezreal, who's an adult grown fucking man. And anyway, and she sees Lux as a love rival, which is, I think, meant to confirm the relationship between those two.
Yeah, did we miss something along the way that there's something going on between Lux and Ezreal?
I think they're trying to retcon that in.
Because I'm pretty sure...
Because everybody knows Ezreal and Tarek are boyfriends.
Yeah, thank you. In my heart, that's the relationship of League. What? Why are you giving me that face?
I don't know. Lore's weird, man.
Yeah. Fizz is a Yordle now. I guess he's a Yordle now because they haven't even updated him on like their websites. He's just in the client now. He's a Yordle, but nowhere else in League of Legends have they explained this.
After so long of ardent defense, no, Fizz is not a Yordle. Fizz is something else that we're not going to explain, and that's fine. You do you, Riot. Now he's just like low key. Oh yeah, no, actually he's been a Yordle the whole time.
Yeah, he's a Sea Yordle.
we were lying back then.
Yeah. We just made up some Sea Yordles, and now he's one of those. I really am getting a little annoyed with Riot, and a lot of like people who like cosplay as Yordles and who roleplay as Yordles and who do Yordle fan art are kind of getting annoyed with Riot because Riot doesn't seem to have any clue what the fuck Yordles are. Like, are they these fairy creatures, or are they just little goblin things, or are they, I guess, sea monkeys now? Riot doesn't seem to know. Excuse me.
And see now, like, it always bothered me about Fizz that he was the only one that we ever saw, but now that he's this Sea Yordle, that's going to continue to bother me and everything. That's one thing that keeps frustrating me about Riot, is we get so many human-looking characters to show, hey, there are these vast, wide-ranging cultures throughout this game of humans and everything. But then you get into more of the creature-type characters, and Alistar is the one I'm going to go with here. His lore, dated and ancient and probably irrelevant as it is, very clearly indicates that he is not the only one of his tribe. He's not the last Minotaur standing and everything. How is he the only capable? How is he the only like meaningful Minotaur in this entire universe that Riot's creating?
Yeah,
like
it's the fantasy disease
that bothers me.
It's the fantasy disease. It's the same, in Fellowship of the Ring, where you get like 4 hobbits and 2 humans, but there's 1 elf and 1 dwarf. It's essentially that, where in fantasy, there's a long tradition of taking like one representative of whatever your fucking fantasy race is, and then you extrapolating the whole thing just from them. And that's basically what's going on here, is that, we need a something creature. Let's make one. and he stands in for the whole entire fucking race. And if like they did that with Rengar before they retconned him into a Vestaya.
Mm-hmm.
He was the same thing.
They've done a lot of
There's one
retconning.
Rengar.
So I mean that's resolved some of those issues, but Alistar is still this weird isolated case.
Well, you see, the reason you haven't seen any more Minotaurs is because Alistar is actually a Yordle.
Yeah. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised.
I think no, they'll end up doing some kind of visual update with Alistar and turning him into some Zon creation, much like
something like that. Yeah.
Urgot or Singe or Warwick. Well, actually more like
Twitch.
Warwick or Urgot. Even Twitch. Was Twitch a human that turned rat?
No, he was a rat
is he
that
Master
got.
Splinter?
He was a rat that mutated into being smart enough to shoot a crossbow.
Okay, so he's Master Splinter.
And also
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, he's basically Master Splinter, but without the turtles.
I understand.
Or the Eastern philosophy and the
And crazier.
Okay, so backtracking now back to Zoe, because we decided that Fizz was more important than the character we're speaking of now. She's this whimsical character that's very playful and treacherous. Now I'm wondering,
Lazy.
With taking Zoe, what's that?
Lazy. That's what she is.
Yeah, she's very lazy. So with taking that, I'm curious what Riot is going to do in the future, and I think we've said this 100 times. How do you take this and turn this into a battlefield where she's fighting people? Because, just kind of like skimming over lore and whatnot, she just seems like she wants to be out and having fun. At one point, she leaves something in one area and teleports to a new area, and it's like, oh, I've left it there. Ah, well, it'll be funny if they find it. So what happens when she goes into the Rift? What is the Rift, and why is Zoe here, and why is Zoe suddenly slinging spells and fighting? She doesn't seem like the type of character that would ever want to fight. She just seems like somebody that just wants to pop around and have fun and and enjoy life.
Riot has pretty much given up on justifying why the characters are fighting each other. I don't think they're interested in that anymore at all. Like they took away. It used to be they had this contrivance where it's the summoners who summon these fantastical champions to battle for political points or whatever. Once they threw that out of the window, it's pretty much just because like, Jesus Christ, we don't want to justify this shit anymore. We don't want to. No, we're just gonna make champions. And they fight because reasons. Blah, blah, no. So
they don't actually fight. They're just like in the place, and there's some that are whimsical and jump around. Are we gonna have an Infinity War version of League of Legends? Is that what this comes down to? Where the factions are fighting each other, or the factions come together to fight one large entity?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, like Riot has to clarify whether the lore has anything to do with the game whatsoever, or if it's just meant to be sort of flavor stuff outside of the game.
I gotta imagine they're going a heroes route with this, right? Where each character they just bring the characters together because it's fun to bring the characters together. Then they're
pretty much
stuck into their own universe.
Pretty much, I think that's what's gonna end up really. I think that's why they're separating them into factions so that they can tell Demacia stories without having to worry about telling stories about everywhere else, for example.
It'd be great if we just started getting more stories then.
Yeah, any stories would be nice. Just hire me to do a comic, Riot. God damn it.
Yeah, hire some goddamn writers, for fuck's sake. All right. Well, what else? Well, I mean, besides Zoe, I guess there's really not too much to talk to about her aesthetics, right? We've pretty much covered it and covered what she does and how she is. She is pretty boring. Like, overall, like her character and lore and all that, there's nothing outspoken.
She is pretty straightforward in a lot of ways. Like, there isn't much to her. Her costume itself is also very understated, really, considering that she's supposed to be the cosmic trickster goddess. She's wearing some hot pants and a crop top. That's pretty much it.
But so the character I immediately thought of when reading through her lore was Ed from Cowboy Bebop. And it's just sort of like, how often do these characters come up and they are, typically used as a source of comic relief, and that's fine. Most things need comic relief and everything, but they don't end up being like fundamentally interesting or compelling characters just because they're the comic relief and everything. Like it's almost difficult to do that in a lot of respects. And we never get enough of the characters in League of Legends to really be able to say, oh yeah, no, these are really well-rounded, developed. There's so much more than just this comic relief element or brooding anime, anti-hero or Disney princess or, all these things. Like, we never get enough about the characters to really be able to say more. So I appreciate why, we're all feeling like she's boring and everything, but that's sort of the archetype of, comic relief.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, there isn't a lot you can do with her, really. Like, you can't really do drama with her without breaking the archetype you can't really tell anything other than, oh, she plays a trick on someone and it's funny.
And that's why it confused me that they're calling, like, they picked her to be this herald of things to come. And I like that she didn't really care what she was, like, heralding. Like, that element with the character specifically was interesting. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, so she's just here, and she's got this power, and she doesn't really care about it. She's like, hey, she's having fun, and that's great. But you know, like, it's sort of... It feels disconnected then from everything else that they're trying to accomplish, I guess, with the whole Targonian side.
Yeah. Yeah, she isn't... I mean, there's not much to her, really, when you get down to it. There isn't that much to her. I don't think she really has a psychology. Not that we see, not that they've indicated anywhere, except that she's fun and quirky, and she's a manic pixie dream girl in a lot of ways.
Do you think Riot comes up with, like, Myers-Briggs personality types for all the characters that they create?
Oh,
like
God,
before they actually release, you know, a tidbit of a story or the entire story that they write. Do you think they actually go so far as to be like, no, this is like where they fit into things and this is what we're going for?
Yeah, I'm not sure really. Like I honestly, what little I hear about or out of the Riot writing department is that they are very much at the mercy of the champion designers. So what's the likely story with Zoe is that some champion designer came up with the concept for her mechanics, and then it's like, we need a champion that can make this fit. And then the artists kind of have to design a visual that worked around that, and then they give that to the writers and tell the writers, figure out how to write that thing.
That makes sense from a pure gameplay and I guess game balance or game health standpoint, but it'd be cool to see it like go the other way. Hey, we wrote these characters, and now here, like, let's see what the artist can do with you know, the character, you know, based on this story, and then, you know, we have this story, we have a character design. What type of gameplay can we come up with that?
Yeah, and I think that's probably why Zoe was made a cosmic champion, is that whatever, like, the gameplay mechanics of her kit would be sort of impossible to pull off outside of saying, I guess she's a god. That's how she does that. Those things that nobody else in League of Legends can do.
That's been their answer to other champs. You know, they did the same thing with Tom Kent. Just like, we want somebody who can travel with people. All right, River God. That's, you know, good enough.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Catfish,
Exactly.
let's go. They couldn't have, though, made, like, go back to the Rift point. They couldn't have had... Yeah, it's fun. I'm going to take... I had a thought while I was going through this. I'm going to take a step back. Do you guys remember a very long time ago when Trundle was, like, the poop monster? Essentially,
Yeah.
he was like he had the big poop pillar, and he was ugly and disgusting. And people, I guess, Riot came out and said that people weren't purchasing Trundle or buying Trundle skins because they didn't like his aesthetics. So they didn't. That's why they changed him to be this ice, you know, troll god thing. Not god, but nice troll guy, right? And I think at one point they said they took with Elise, they knew that having a spider come out there might be, you know, might not sit well with some players, but they took a chance with Elise and put Elise out there as this giant black widow. But now you have Zoe, and yeah, she's a mystical creature god thing, but I would have liked to see more done with the Rift, because I think it could have Rift or space so much. Like, what if Zoe had, you know, encountered Vel'Koz in her travels? And now, you know, we talk about how Vel'Koz is trying to find... Vel'Koz came to different planets because he's trying to, you know, research everybody, then he kills them, right? When he's done. Isn't that, like, basically his lore?
Yeah.
Like, he researches and kills, simulates. But, you know, either make her a space, like this kind of, you know, crazy space god, like the Celestial thing, so then we stick with that rather than just making her this person that travels between space and time. Or we go with the... what the hell's it called? The monsters. Fuck, what's Cho'Gath thing? Come on.
Void.
Thank you, Void.
Creature?
Yeah, you know, or instead, because you've got the character designers that go, we want to make somebody that can pop up between places. Well, suddenly now she's a Void monster, and she can jump up, you know, in between Void spots or open Void portals and jump through them. And now she has a tie-in with Ryze and other characters in this game. And now you have your lore a little bit more connected, and potentially you can flesh out these other characters like Ryze and, you know, Cho'Gath and Kassadin and whatnot. Hell, at this point, she probably could have been Kassadin's daughter. You know?
Yes, the old Kassadin's daughter.
The old daughter of Kassadin.
You
Ooh.
could have done
That
something
game.
with that. Like, she's popping up because she can teleport like Cassidy can, but she can make rifts because she's more powerful. It's that old trope, right? Like, the offspring is now more powerful than the parent because the offspring has been trapped somewhere. La da da. Like, even then, I probably would have felt more connected with it. I just don't feel that sparkly and fun and ha 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 it goes well with League of Legends. I don't like that in my game. I don't need dark and brooding.
That's right.
I do need middle ground, but I just don't like cosmic anime.
Yeah.
You bring up
Or
a good
if
point with the void stuff. This would have been a really unique opportunity to explore more of the void than really what we know, which is that there are bug type creatures, bug adjacent creatures, and that's really all we know. And then what is it? Kassadin and Malzahar have like this tangential connection. But like it would have been. Zoe could have been an interesting opportunity to explore more in there, while I think retaining a lot of the elements of the kit, precisely for what you described. They went a different route. I can't help but wonder if they just felt obligated to do something with Targon.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Adam makes a really good point that it seems that they have a bit of a preference for not exploring certain areas of the game, where the void in particular has been left barren and dormant for a long time. Like when was the last dedicated void champion?
Rek'Sai.
Was it Rek'Sai? Yeah, it was Rek'Sai.
Yeah,
and
which
she was still Shurima
2014,
connected,
but like the tail end of 2014.
And she's still primarily connected to Shurima
Rek'Sai?
as a region.
Yeah, say she doesn't remind me of Void.
The
at
Void
all.
Burrower is her name, so we gotta
And it is a thing where like I think Adam has a very good point that Zoe is fundamentally disconnected from everything else in League of Legends because she's not really connected to Targon as such because she has no connection to Leona or Diana or Pantheon. She has a tenuous connection to Aurelion Sol at best, and Aurelion Sol himself has no real connection to Leona or Diana or Taric.
That was kind of what I was thinking, and then you took the words out of my mouth. So right
the only connection she has to Mount Targon is that she was born there, and she happened to go through a portal on Mount Targon and came back a millennia later.
Yeah,
at Mount
basically.
Targon, right? Like, there you go. Oh, I'm suddenly Targonian because I was here. Like, you could be born in Mount Targon and then suddenly become this celestial space creature. Or, hell, a void could have opened up and fucking Kha'Zix or somebody could have grabbed her and pulled her in, but then she fought her way out, and now she's this crazy-looking void creature that's popped up a millennia later and is taking, wants to get back at Kha'Zix for stealing her, and is now going to join, and is trying to hunt, and then she eventually meets Rengar, and then they're like, oh, we're both hunting Kha'Zix. Well, that's great. Let's go hunt the other void monsters together, and now you have this weird connection. I know it's not perfect and fleshed out. It came out of my head in 30 seconds, but you get where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, it's still more connected than Zoe is.
That's still more interesting than where Zoe's at.
They're leaning really heavily into the champions as old as time thing of late. Zoe, Ornn, Ivern, and Aurelion Sol. And I know it feels like Aurelion Sol is super old, and that's because it was March of 2016. But he's like the 10th newest champion, and so just from a release standpoint and everything, 40% of your champions are as old as time. It's like, okay, maybe dial that down a little bit.
I'm okay with the as old as time thing, but only if you don't make them completely disconnected. Like, to me, Aurelion Sol fits in the universe because he's the celestial space god dragon that just goes around devouring universes, and now he's made on this universe but is being fought back or whatever the fuck's going on. But then when you give an old as time random teleporting person, it disconnects me from the story. It disconnects me from wanting to play this champion. I think that gods can be done, if done correctly, and with some kind of story that connects to the universe, gods can be awesome, and they can be fun to play, and they don't feel like they're indestructible and, unkillable. Like, I'm okay with the way they did Aurelion Sol, but he's like, and I really like how they did Ornn. Like, but he shaped, the entirety of
He is deeply connected to the Freljord, yeah. He has a lot of lore connection. I actually I looked at the list and did a count. 7 of the last 15 champions are some description of cosmic entity or god creature.
Of course. They've ran out of ideas. Well, I don't want to put another Yordle in the game. Let's just make Fizz a Yordle. We'll call that good for this year.
Next kindred are going to be Yordles.
I think it's also very difficult for the writers because the writers they don't put out any stories. Like, they don't put out any lore or any stories that might inspire more champions that are connected to Demacia or connected to... When the hell was the last Noxus champion? That was like when was the last Noxus champion?
Kled, sorta?
Yeah, Kled,
Yeah.
I guess. But he was a Yordle. And it was like... When's the last...
Noxus Yordle.
Draven was the last human Noxus champion. That's in 2012.
I think they're counting on the Swain rework to be their next Noxus champion.
Yeah,
I
If
guess.
you count that.
Oh, wait, Urgot was Zon.
Yeah.
Why does the list have a good list? Yeah, because Kane, Zaya, Rakan, no. Camille, no, she's not, right? She's
Yeah, she's Piltover.
Piltover, right? And obviously...
Draven was the last proper, like, Noxus champion. 2012.
What a good
along with
champion he
Darius.
was. Man, Draven and Kled. Let's get some more Noxus champions in here.
Yeah. And the last
I'm telling
Demacia was...
Look at the list and go back to what I said about them not wanting to release champions they don't think will sell. They're not releasing noxious champions and ugly champions because they don't. I honestly believe they don't think they sell. Like Kled is the last champion here that would be like an ugly champion, and even he's not ugly. Well, maybe Tom Kench would be, but he's
No way.
got character and whatnot.
He's dashing as fuck.
Yeah. They
Aatrox was probably the last one, and obviously he's a Darkin now, but when he was released, he was something
always
else.
a Darkin.
No,
He was still a dark. He was a Darkin on
Always
release.
the Darkin Blade. He's always
Yeah.
been the Darkin Blade.
Okay,
in
well
his
there you go.
name.
That's probably the last ugly champion. Now I know that's subjective, but yeah, and that was 2013. So you got 4 years of not ugly champions and champions that are.
Vel'Koz
Wait, where's
Vel'Koz
Jin
is
from?
Not...
He's
Where did Jin
from
come from?
Ionia. He's Ionia.
Oh, okay.
Vel'Koz is a pretty ugly champion.
Yeah, but he still looks cool.
Or maybe gross rather than ugly.
Like compare Vel'Koz to someone like Cho'Gath.
League definitely has space for a champion or for something like Vel'Koz and everything. Like
Yeah.
he totally added something that wasn't otherwise there, so I'm fine with it. But
Interdimensional space traveler trying to simulate everything. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. I know it's the archetype has been used before, but that's still fun. Like games need
Yes.
that over time.
Mm-hmm.
Less sparkles, more murder. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, it really is overdue for someone who's truly just monstrous and
well, I mean, we just got
evil.
Urgot, so like don't.
well, they made him so much more handsome. Like he looks substantially more handsome. He looks cool.
Comparatively.
He looks, yeah, like he doesn't look like a catch, but like he looks more like a Bane type now than a walking flesh sack that's barely bursting with toxins. Like there's definitely space for a proper monster, like a really just a horrifying eldritch creature of some kind.
Yeah, none of
Yeah.
them are. Ever since they redid Trundle way back, there's really no horrific looking monsters anymore. Everything's got that cutesy human look to it. Even Warwick isn't scary when he got his
Yeah.
rework done. Scion, they took Scion from this ugly character to, I guess he's a Colossus and
I mean,
evil. Like I like what they did with him. I think we
it has
just
to
need
be-
more of that type arc.
It has to be ugly to a point, right? We can't be playing a champion as a walking turd. Because we
Why?
had that with
Stitches-
old Urgot. And nobody played
Stitches
old
and
Urgot.
Heroes.
Nobody
Stitches and
plays
Heroes
the-
is fucking ugly and disgusting, and he's got like bile coming out of his fucking stomach, and it's ripped open, and his face is hanging off, and he's got a fucking hook that he throws at people. Like that's cool, that's awesome, and it fits in the universe. And you know what? League of Legends could handle one of those characters right now.
They have the
I mean,
Shadow Isles.
I
They
don't
could do
like-
some monsters. Like, come on.
I don't like ugly for the sake of ugly. Like that's the big thing of the character. Just like I don't like cute for the sake of cute. Like if there's something more, that feeds into, okay, that's one thing. Let's make that an interesting point. But I think that's a fair criticism of Zoe, is that it just sort of feels like cute for the sake of cute.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that kind of bothered me about Twitch's rework is that old Twitch was very clearly supposed to be a dirty, smelly, flea-bitten, like just disgusting rat. But new Twitch looks more like someone's cool persona. It's the thing, and it's not that he doesn't look monstrous, but it's that all the edges have been kind of sanded off. He doesn't look like someone who would be like really disgusting or dripping with pus or just kind of ugh. He looks like someone. He looks cool ultimately because they are always trying to sell the fantasy of feeling powerful and feeling cool, and that's kind of driven out the uglier, less like the unappealing champions. which I think there's a space for something that's ugly for ugly's sake. I think there's a space for that. Not a lot of space, but they're like one where it's like, I just want to be a huge, ugly fucking sack of shit monster that kills people.
I just want Stitches in League. That's what I want, because the motherfucker's just big and ugly and putrid, and there's pus and fucking everything. You know what we need? We need Zon to have kind of like big explosion where it. You know what? Take a step back. Riot needs to release another event. It doesn't have to be an in-game event. We don't need a fucking custom game mode for it. But we're something where, like, Zon explodes. Like, because fucking Singe is down there working on shit, and it just boom, and this big fucking monster comes out of the ground. It's putrid and disgusting, and they were working on this next incarnation of using pieces of Skyen or you know, like you know how King Jarvan's mouth is fucking Scions. Like, that type of shit. They were using shit like that. This big putrid fucking monster comes out, and then Galio comes in, and they're fighting, and, like, something really cool. These big colossal monsters are fighting, and it would be this really awesome battle for the ages. Like that, I'm in. I'm fully in. We need one of those. We've never had one of those. Never had one of those big fights.
I keep saying, I say it like every time we do an art and lore episode. I always like, why not just do a game mode where we actually get to do some of these fights that Riot is clearly trying to create within their own lore anyway? Like, give us a chance to be involved. Is it going to be for everybody? No, but the random game modes aren't for everybody either. You know, it's a specific group of people who get involved. You know, people get involved for a little while and then let that drive some results for a minute.
If you give the community an opportunity to make up something out of the game mode that you've been given, kind of like Dominion had their own little following, and people will do it. Speedrunners, again, I'm going back to Heroes. They just released their first PvE mode, and the speedrunning community got a hold of it. Now, that PvE mode was only out for 5 or 6 days, but the speedrunning community tried to speedrun the game, and they're posting videos of it to make it faster and faster and get a world record. Now, when is that ever mode going to come back? Who knows? But that means people were fucking playing it because they're enjoying it, and other people are getting into it because they're enjoying watching, and that, you know, that helps Riot, and that helps Blizzard in that case. And the same thing could go if you made a really fun game mode where it is faction versus faction. I think that would take off.
I'd be totally down for like a game mode that is Demacia versus Noxus. And the Demacians get to have special summoner spells that only work from their thematic perspective, and the Noxians get to have special summoner spells that work for them.
And Galio's disabled, but he can be summoned at a moment's notice when there's a ton of magic or something, and he comes flying down and goes boom.
Yeah, and the Noxians can call in Skyen, who comes charging in as a counter or something. Like, there's a lot of
Skyen, they clash and they're fighting, and you guys have to fight around them. Oh my god, I'm in. I would totally play that game mode.
Because then you could then you could actually bring some of the lore to life, which is the thing that's always been a problem for League, is that their lore and their game is so disconnected. And they don't really fit together. Like, the only times they connect the lore to the game is when they do limited time game modes for skin lines. Project, for Star Guardians, for all that shit. And for Ascension with like a Seer thing. Those are the only times. So, come on, bring the mainline lore in. Like, Noxus versus Demacia, or Piltover versus Son. Something.
But, and remember when... I mean, the whole Bilgewater event and everything, that was really cool. We got a different version of the Murder Bridge, and then Gangplank was disabled, and you just felt like you were doing specific things that were and the community got really, really into it. You know, like Gangplank got disabled, Gangplank was dead. What was going on? Nobody had any idea what was going on. People were really worked up about it. Everybody was talking. It was interesting. It was fun. It was exciting.
Yeah, I think Riot got a little scared by the Bilgewater event because a lot of people got really pissed that they couldn't play as Gangplank for a while. But
for like one day.
Fuck it, like.
But I mean, it's fine. We don't have to disable champions in that specific way. But you know, I mean, I appreciate that it's really, really difficult to get narrative and gameplay and design and everything all timed out so perfectly that you can launch all that, you know, all of the moving parts that were involved, you know, at once. But isn't that really what game design is?
Yeah, I mean,
is figuring out how to get all that stuff to work together so that you have a successful product launch.
It's the thing that Riot is running out of excuses, in the sense that they are perhaps one of the biggest video game companies in the world. Whatever the hell they want to do, they have the resources. It's a matter of getting themselves together and executing on it. Like, for instance, they have the resources, and I'm sick of accepting the excuse that they sometimes give it where it's like, oh, well, I mean, we're still working on figuring out how the lore works. No, you can hire writers. You can outsource that shit. You have the resources to get this done. And I'm getting a little exhausted with Riot because they always fall back on that thing. We want to do it super right, though, so we're doing it really slowly and not telling you anything about what we're doing.
To be fair, there is a lot of red tape and bureaucracy that goes along with hiring new people, right? Like, it does take 6 months or so to get people, acclimated to your client and able to understand how their community works. You can't just jump in day one and start writing shit and making changes, so...
No, but they can outsource. Like, that's what Blizzard has done. That's what Star Wars does. That's what Marvel does. Like, Marvel works exclusively with freelancers, essentially. And there are models in the industry for how to manage a stable of this many characters and still tell compelling, interesting stories and build a fan base and build a community around the lore and the story that's going on. And Riot seem to be following none of them, like taking none of the positive experiences from any other major franchises. And it bothers me. Because they could. It's possible.
It feels like their writing team is still discouraged from just, like, sitting down and writing a short story that pairs up Twitch and Alistar for whatever reason. It feels like the writer, whereas the artists, if they have a cool idea for a skin, they can kind of work on that during some of their free time or during extra time at work and that type of stuff. And then if it fits certain expectations within the game, some of those skins end up getting shipped and turned into, or actually turned into skins instead of where they were just like fledgling ideas. And it doesn't feel like the narrative team gets the same liberty. I might be mistaken. I don't pay 100% focus to everything going on the Nexus and everything, but it seems like stories, if they come out, they have to have like this visual component with it. And I think there are a number of fans who would actually, I would just be interested in reading a 3,000-word short story about Yasuo.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my impression from, like, the rumors I've picked up and the chatter I've heard, is that narrative doesn't really get to do things on their own. They get to do stuff when other departments need them to do stuff. And how true is that, I don't know, but it certainly feels true based on how they're behaving.
Well enough with mass speculation shitting down Riot's neck. So Zoe, huh?
Yeah, she's fine. She's okay.
Zoe.
Yeah,
she sucks.
I think I'm just gonna. I just want to say before I'm gonna wrap this up a little bit, unless there's more to be said. If there is, feel free to jump in when I'm done talking. But if anybody ever comes out with a game mode like the one I discussed, you're gonna hear from my lawyer. His name is John Drake. He works for Riot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just letting you guys know. That was my idea. When Gallia comes crashing down.
Understood.
Original game mode, do not steal.
What the hell is going on with Zoe's eye? Does she have like a big bulging red vein in there?
Woof,
I can't
woof.
figure out what the hell that is. Her purple eye.
So I guess
like
that's
a red
it then.
thing.
I don't see a red thing. I see.
It's there. It's there. It's like I can't tell if she's holding something in between her fingers or what's going on.
Oh, you know what? There is like a red thing in there. You can kind of see it right there.
Oh wait, you know what? That might be shadow. But it looks like a vein.
Shadow. I think that's a shadow.
Shadow and
really
image compression.
I think it's just shadow.
Well, glad we figured that one out, boys. Glad that our listeners in the car right now can understand what we're talking about. But there's a shadow of what.
Look at her eye. Just look at her eye, listeners. Tell me I'm crazy.
Zoom in really close on the splash art, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Well, you sure as hell can't miss them because they're so goddamn big.
Yep. That's right.
Zoe Deschanel would like a word with you.
Jesus Christ. The only
Good
Dom.
Lord.
Dom would be the one that would bring that up. That's so Dom.
So dumb.
That's so dumb. Ba-da-da-ba-da-ba.
And with that, we're going to end the show because we ain't got nothing else to talk about, and I'm done bitching about Riot and everything. You know what, Skyen? Caster Comics with an X.com. Check out Skyen, TB, Skyen, Skyen. Skyen, anything else?
No, go check out the Trinity Force Podcast Patreon. They've got a lot of good stuff on there. You should, pledge $1 or $2 to them so they can keep doing stuff and go to conventions and do videos on their YouTube channel, which not enough people watch. I'm trying to shame you into watching their YouTube channel. That's what I'm doing right now. Go watch it. Go look at it. There's good videos there.
Yeah. Then there's tons of comics. Go read his comics.
Yeah.
There's cross promotion going on.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one from a very long time ago with us on it. I'm sure if you search Trinity Force Podcast, Caster Comics or something, you could find that one.
I died. You nailed Shira in one of those panels and everything. It was just like you nailed. It was the best.
If I remember correctly, it was you screaming about people not supporting artists, and we're all just like, okay, great. Well,
he was talking about the creative process and how you pour your heart and soul to things, but people get really, really critical and you feel like you're dying.
Yeah, it's just a true-to-life little bit of a story. It's like,
the eventual part 2 is where Skyen is screaming about Riot and not understanding things.
I do that every day on my YouTube channel, too.
Pretty much the same panel. He just uses the same panels but replaces the text and all of it. It could just be the new meme. What does Skyen yell about this week?
Yeah.
Can I have that? Can I get that? Do you have that art? Can I get that art without any words in the bubble?
Sure, I'll send that over to you if I can find it in my archives.
I'm totally using this. Oh, it's gonna be great. I'm gonna replace your face with like actual Sean's face or something. It's gonna be fantastic. All right, I got so many ideas, guys. Thanks for listening to Trinity Force Podcast. Go check out Caster Comics. We very much enjoy every single one of you, and I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Support your creators, support everybody out there, guys. We will see you all next week. Peace.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening to our product and being a member of the Trinity Force Network community. If you have a moment, please head over to iTunes and give your favorite show a comment and a rating. If you're so inclined, you can check out all of the other great shows in the network. We've got a wide variety of content from League of Legends to general gaming and role-playing podcasts. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we can be found at Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit under T-Force Network. We've also got a Patreon under that name where you can support your favorite shows with a small donation each month. Thanks again for listening, and we hope you continue to enjoy all of our podcasts, videos, and the community that we provided.